fair warning, a lot of Star Wars in this one.
Oh, you know.
Hey everyone, it's Chris. You're listening to the Dad Regime podcast. I've got Tim waiting on the line. We're going to talk about mobile gaming, the lament, the demise of mobile gaming. Anyway, we're going to sound like a couple of old guys yelling at kids to get off the lawn. Stay tuned for Pretty Jesus. New track, Be My Valentine. We're going to close the show with that one. Remember, all the other music that you hear on the Dad Regime is courtesy of Dora Jackson. Link in the show notes. Support her. We love her. Let's go. Tim, you and I we've benefited from mobile gaming, right? But I think...
very much so.
Yeah. But I think you and I would both agree that mobile gaming has become the devil and is probably the cause of all the ill will in the world right now. Agree or disagree?
I'm leaning towards agree, but I feel like there is a medium balance in there somewhere.
Okay, so perhaps I've gone a little bit too far to that side. Okay.
I'm more of a gray kind of guy myself, less of a black and white. But
all right. Well, let me. I'll wind it back a little.
Definitely more of a charcoal. It's more of a charcoal. If it was between on the spectrum of shades between shades of gray, then yeah, it's definitely leaning towards the darker side. It's a hurdle, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely hurdle. I don't know if we've actually discussed it before. We've done a couple of podcasts together. I'm not sure whether we've actually discussed how we met.
I don't think we have. No.
So you and I met playing a mobile game, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which I think at one point was the highest grossing mobile game in the world. Like it was top of the Apple charts and all that sort of stuff. A free game.
I believe that.
A free game, and yet
technically,
and yet was the highest grossing game because of its microtransactions and all that sort of stuff. Now I know you and I didn't spend a whole lot of money on that game, but I have to plead guilty that there were times where I did spend money on the game to keep progressing.
I will be honest as well and say that there are times where either the height of frustration or something kicked, and I was just like, I just want to, The way they design the games is to purposefully frustrate you as a player. Yeah. And I definitely fell victim to that a couple times. And there were some gift card purchases that could have definitely been the gift card could have definitely been put towards something more productive.
Yeah, I mean, at the time though, like I think I played the game for a little over a year, I think, and in that time, I could justify spending a couple of dollars here and there because I was in a community with a group of guys who were genuinely nice people who I really enjoyed spending a bit of time with and having a chat with. So I felt like I could justify it at that time. The thing that started killing it for me, though, is that I found that the game was asking me to log in all the time. You know, to keep progressing, to keep building my characters, to keep feeling like I was contributing to our group. It started taking up too much time, and not time that I could choose, not time where okay, I'm going to dedicate an hour tonight or some time on the weekend or whatever. It was, you need to log in here to collect this, to be a part of this, to, you know, and that was the bit that started killing
X event. This event is going on at this specific time, so wherever you are in the world, drop what you're doing and log on to the game. Yeah. It became very daunting, and at that point, the social environment that we had kind of built and developed, and that's how we met, and the great group of guys who, a lot of them are still in that same group, and I am nominally still by name mostly only, still part of that group now, but I don't log on hardly ever, just because of time constraints. But it became more of that social structure became almost like it was used by the game to kind of pressure you into, being on the game and spending money and doing things to stay, like you said, active, and to stay as a contributing and helpful member to these friends that you've met, because you can only rise together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can only help the group out if you keep staying on the same level as everyone else, or pushing to be better and improve. And in many ways, they designed it so that you could only improve if, you dumped, either a crazy amount of hours or a crazy amount of cash into the game.
And we've played with and against people who I don't want to even guess how much money they spent on it.
There are people who easily spend in the thousands, plural, range of dollars a year, if not more than that.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Because just as a casual player, you can get grouped up against these guys who, every player on their entire squad is completely maxed out, and all the things that are not possible as a casual player, things to achieve. And it definitely becomes prohibitive, and makes you, or at least made me, like, okay, well, I guess there's no point in trying to keep up. So that's made me just eventually back out of the game altogether. Not altogether. I'm still, again, technically still on there. I log on maybe 3 or 4 times a month now.
Yeah, right.
If I can.
Yeah.
I feel bad that I'm waiting to be booted out by the group, but I think I'm kind of a legacy member now. I don't know if I'm just like a dead weight that they continue to pull around. Because occasionally we'll drop in with a ironic quip or a funny one-liner, or something in the chat, and I don't know if that really carries me through, but I'm just any day I'm expecting to be booted fully at any point, and I will have no ill will towards anybody who does. But I don't know if they're just keeping me around for history purposes. I don't even know. But I played that game from honestly the minute it dropped.
Yeah. Right.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. I saw that it was coming out soon. It was like Thanksgiving of what was it, 2013, 2014? Somewhere around there. It's been a while. It's been around for a long time now. I played for free and as not a member of a group for a good year and a half before I ever did the whole clan join up with other people thing.
Yeah.
That's one aspect of gaming that just going back into my history of gaming in general, I was always more of a single storyline, single campaign kind of RPG or role playing or just strategy kind of stuff. Solo gamer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same.
And the group thing was never really something that I'd ever done before. And so doing that on that game, it introduced me to all these guys and all these tons of other dads, tons of other people who are like in the same situation, that I thought I was in at the time. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is like, at the same time I started being really active in that group was the same time that we had the twins, and I just quit my job, career, whatever, and then just focused on being a at-home dad. And that was basically the only social outlet that I had outside of, screaming little, babies in my face. And it was nice to have some people that I could feel like I could talk to.
Yeah, and it was
some kind of conversation with.
Yeah, it was great, and I know we're both friends with a couple of the people who were in that group, simply through the communications that we had through playing that game. And
it's interesting is that there are people who we've managed to maintain the friendships in spite of the fact that we're no longer tied by the game itself. So that's a really nice bonus that I was able to pull through. It definitely had its positives, even in spite of the fact that the game kind of, I think, almost kicked us both out for not being interested in throwing in the change. Or what have you. I don't know. I'm not sure.
That gaming mechanic, though, of keeping you on the device and having the microtransactions, so the free game with the microtransactions is just it's almost like a disease now in the gaming industry.
Well, it's everywhere now.
Yeah.
It started off as like small little things here and there, and it started off like and the thing that drove me to Star Wars initially, I'll be honest, is that they were games that I was just trying out, just to try to have something to kill the dead time in the day, just something to keep me busy because I didn't have again I'm used to I was used to playing console games or computer games where I'd sit down and like play for an hour or two or whatever, just to kind of focus on one thing, accomplish a task, feel a sense of accomplishment, get those endorphins in my brain kicking, and then feel like okay, I can go and just feel good about myself and just like go and act out the rest of my day and do whatever I need to do.
Yeah.
Or at the end of the day, at least if it's been a frustrating, hard day, I'll just sit down and play some games and at least I feel like I accomplished something because there are tasks, it's a storyline, there's accomplishments you make along the way, things like that. And there were a lot of games that I was running into where they'd have that paywall of you've run out of moves or you've run out of lives, or so you either have to wait 5 minutes or whatever for the clock to tick, and then the energy will be refilled, and you can make another attempt,
or you can get it right now for 10 crystals.
$1.99 right now and get full lives. Yeah, it's just $1.99. Come on, $2. It's like the cost of a Coke. Hey, come on.
Yeah.
Like it's and it was that kind of malicious, like, hey, come on. And this was part of the reason why I became interested in Star Wars initially. The game, so their structure was that they had a variation on that function with the energy heavy bars that they had for different things, but they had like 3 different sets of energy bars.
Yeah.
So you could play this part, and then if your energy ran out of that, okay, you just switch over to the other one. And you play that for a while. Yeah. And by the time you're done playing that, then you go back and you play the other one again. So you can still, have that sense of accomplishment, have the sense of learning the game, have the sense of figuring out the mechanics for the characters and things like that, and the gameplay aspect of it. And it was, this is a phrase that I've learned to be a very negative phrase now, is that it's fun enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun, like, in total. It wasn't a fun experience all around. It didn't, like, light up my day and make me happy.
No.
It was fun enough.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, and it was like, I realize now that's almost what it seems like many developers are shooting for. They're wanting games just not to be, great, but just to be fun enough.
Yeah, just to
challenging,
keep you
enough.
Active.
Just enough to keep you, exactly, just enough to keep you there and make you think that there might be something a little bit better if you keep playing.
Yeah.
Maybe the next level will be a little more intriguing. The next thing will be a little more, exciting. And yeah, there's another friend on Star Wars game who's he quit probably 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
Liberty, do you remember him?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he was a friend who I became friends with on the chat. He's from the UK. And he quit like 3 years ago now because he got frustrated because they kept teasing Jedi Luke.
Yeah.
And now that was like 2 years. It was 3 years ago, and the game had been out for like a year and a half. They kept teasing it, and they kept giving little things here and there. And now it's like 3 years later, 5 years after the game launched or whatever. It's almost 6 years, and they're just now coming out with Jedi Luke. They finally pushed it off as hard as they possibly could, and then
he quit about a month before I did, and we'd been discussing on a side chat about I think I'm over this. And then the day he quit was the day I'd been going. I'd been planning on going, hey guys, I think I'm out. I'm going to go, and he beat me to it. And then I felt guilty about leaving at the same time, so I hung around for a little bit longer.
I'll be honest, the same thing happened to me with another guy later, Jonathan Leibowitz, but it's
yes,
that character. He did the same thing on the same day that I was going to bounce out, and then like the group number dropped like perilously low. Like because 50 is the cap, right? And they went down to like 42 or something. I'm getting caught up in semantics and too many details now. But it got low enough that I was like, ooh, I can't quit until they get some more people in here. And then it just never really fully fleshed. It was so that's why I've still been getting dragged along by the rest of the group and still check in every week or so if I can. Just be like, oh yeah, I should probably do that.
Hey, so as frustrated as I got with that game towards the end, and as down on mobile gaming, because just about any AAA game that comes out on mobile devices now has that same framework of microtransactions and that addictive. It's almost a psychologically designed way to keep you on the devices. I always felt like I had console games.
It's the modern day casino.
That's exactly what it is.
The bells and whistles, the lights that go off, the shiny numbers.
Exactly.
Oh, hey, maybe on that next turn. Oh, so you got 2 of a kind this time. Oh, if you get one more pull, maybe you'll get 3 of a kind next time. Oh, maybe you'll get that jackpot. You'll get that thing you really, really wanted to.
Well,
every time sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I always felt like I had my console gaming to do exactly what you were talking about before, is having that, a couple of hours a week to chill out. That was my de-stress, like an hour of gaming. But I really started to get worried when the same types of mechanics started coming up in console games. So we had Star Wars Battlefront, all the 2K sports simulators. They're almost all in the same realm of, hey, the game's pretty cheap. Buy the game. The game's pretty cheap, and then it's just microtransactions and that, as you say, that casino gaming mentality. So that we don't have these beautiful, artful storytelling games that we used to have. Now it's just get on the device and stay on the device. That's how you're rewarded, and give us an extra $2.50 and $1.99, a few times a week, because that's how you're going to keep your game progressing.
Right. It's very troubling, I would say. The last game that I played on console with regularity, before my first child was born, was the last game I really did that, where I sat down and spent a couple hours, a day or whenever I could log on. Maybe not every day, but every once or twice a week, I'd be able to jump on, and I'd be able to jump in 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours late at night, or whatever. I had some downtime just to kind of do that take emotional dump. It's almost like Zen or whatever, that same mowing the lawn, where it's just your brain is allowed to get out of your head, because it's just function. There's one part of your brain is focusing on the tasks in the game in front of you, and the other part of the other part of your brain is allowed to just kind of okay, I can just chill and just or think about other things or whatever. When the games started to be I started noticing the last game that I played before my kid was born was Destiny.
Yeah.
And it's and again, it's a space adventure. I played the campaign mostly at that point. Never really, again, I didn't do the multiplayer stuff for a long time later. And still, only ever dabbled here and there. But it was this interplanetary fighting aliens, doing all this stuff, fun adventure, first-person shooter, interesting. But not great, but interesting. And again, you have that sense of accomplishment, and you'd find things, and you'd explore, and all this stuff. And they started adding in the microtransactions into that as well, where, you can only get this look on this character if, or you can only do this if you do this. And
and that was Fortnite was the one that really launched that, with the free console game, download it for free, and then has made hundreds of millions of dollars from
everything is cosmetic
skins, cosmetic skins,
only
no gameplay
microtransactions.
function.
No functionality to anything they sell. It's all cosmetic, and they've made billions of dollars now, I'm sure. But it's it's crazy, and it's just that, and I to a point I kind of get that, in the sense that in the world of social media now as well, where people are people feel it's like keeping up with the Joneses times 10. Where people see someone living their quote unquote best life on Instagram, and they're like, oh my God, they're so happy. Why aren't I happy? Oh, that makes them more depressed or whatever. It's almost that kind of same magnified or same twisted version of that towards gaming. It's oh, they have that armor or that skin or that gun or that whatever. oh man, they look
I've got to
so
have it too.
cool. I want to look cool. I want to do that fun dance that they do. Oh, I want to. It's like it's building up that sense of um, I want, or there's a better way to phrase that. There's actually a term. I'm sure I'm completely
but you're right. It's
missing
the
right now.
keeping up with the Joneses, and I think that kind of brings us around to how this impacts our kids, because the gaming world is different now to what it was when we grew up. I mean, as a young, pre-teen, teenage boy, there wasn't that much that could go wrong in terms of the content of video games that you'd go and buy at the local game shop.
It'd be like the equivalent of letting having the age, the minimum age at a casino be 5.
Yeah.
It's
and
like,
how do we manage that? Like, you've got 3 young ones. 5. The old. I mean, is she accessing games at the moment?
She is. I try to be careful about what she accesses, what she downloads. She can't download anything by herself, of course. But she'll ask for stuff, and I'll have to be the bad dad and be like, "Oh, sorry, can't do that."
Yeah.
Oh, why? I'm like, because every other click on the damn game is a commercial for Disney or for some other thing, and the commercials are 10 times longer than the gameplay is. I'm like, why do you want to do this? This is not fun. How is this fun for you? It's like the way they guilt you into. That's another tactic they use for guilting you into microtransactions.
Yeah.
A lot of games now they'll be free to download, free to play, but every time you switch, or every time you hit a button or you finish one task, before you can go to the next task, they'll have like a minute and a half commercial or a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
And you can, for a small purchase of $4.99, you can get rid of all the ads on the game.
Yeah.
No. That's just another way for you to kind of bilk us out of. It's like, why, if you say it's free to play, it's like that's just another. It's almost like a guilt tactic or something. But it's I've ran into that a couple times with Amelia on games where she wants to figure out how to clip somebody's hair or do some fashion thing or some game or something. So I've had to do lots of research and find the best free games with no ads and things like that. And if there are some, I've managed to find some good educational apps and things like that have enough of a fun aspect to it, but it's also interesting and challenging, and actually has an educational format to it as well. So it's like either like a brain teaser aspect to it, or a phonics reading, letter recognition, pattern recognition, mathematical, benefits and challenges in those ways. Those are the games that I let the kids play. And even then, though, I gotta be careful.
Yeah.
They're always trying to go to the next section, which of course has to, try to figure out how to go to the grown-up section so that they can purchase the whatever the shiny thing is they saw on the screen with the glowing icon or the whatever button. It's a battle. It's a constant fight. But yeah, it's something I feel like it's just part of the landscape now. Sadly. In many ways. I mean, we grew up with board games and card games, and eventually they had Nintendos and Ataris and Segas, and or at least one of your friends at school did, so you could go over to their house occasionally after school. And, and even then, that was just you look at the games they had back then. They're all linear or pattern recognition, or they're versus player versus player. I remember Joust being one of my favorites way back in the day. I remember mapping out the entire side-scrolling map of Life Force, this side-scrolling shooter game where you're a plane flying through a space brain or something. It's weird, but it's those are the games that I remember. But there was no no interruption to say, hey, if you spend, and it's a different world now. But sadly, it's one of those things too, where like my understanding of it is that like the people who make the games, like the programmers, the designers, those guys, they get paid hardly nothing. Like they're not the ones making money off of any of this, and they're underpaid for the number of hours that they're working anyway.
Yes.
So it's like,
it doesn't sound like a great industry to be in if you're a
no. It sounds like a very frustrating industry to be in, and they're constantly pushing to try to find a way to monetize it. And it's almost like I don't know. I feel like it's frustrating on many different levels. Because then, if a company doesn't make enough money on a game, or a game isn't building enough revenue or having enough revenue, then those people who are working on that game get canned and have to move to another game or to move to something else or do something else. It's just like, it almost just feels like a very negative industry to contribute to.
It certainly seems to have become that way. You know what, though? There could be, of all the saving graces, the massive corporation that Disney has become might be the corporation that saves our gaming industry. Did you? I don't know if you read this week that they had a conference. They invited a whole bunch of developers to, and basically told them that they're going to release like this back catalog of IP, and they're asking them to reinvent them and to tell interesting new stories and to do the opposite of what the big gaming companies like EA and that have been doing. So they're actually asking them to create story-driven games again, and not be just going for the microtransaction economy and doing that. So
really,
yeah, and actually the evidence of that might be in I don't know if you played Jedi Fallen Order yet.
I have not. No.
So for those people not in the gaming world, Jedi Fallen Order is a console game. It's a single player only game released by EA. EA don't release single player games at all, and has outsold basically all of their releases for the last 5 years. And Disney's fingerprints are all over it. And there was some leak news over the last year about EA wanting to put in microtransaction stuff, and Disney basically saying, this is our IP, Star Wars is our IP, and we're not going to let you do that to this game. We want it to be this type of thing. So, as big and as bad as those big corporations are, maybe there's been such a backlash against this type of gaming that we might start seeing a little more single player that storytelling driven single player games back, maybe.
I would love to see that, but I do have to give a counterpoint. That just in the last week, have you heard about PlayStation, the PS5, and their new development on that?
No, what's that?
They want to have they're having a new feature in the PS5 of like almost like an Alexa or like a Siri, AI kind of functionality. Where say if you're playing a game and there's a hard part you can't really get through or what have you, you can hit the button and say and ask for help and be like, okay, instead of getting off the game, looking it up on your phone, trying to find a player guide or some walkthrough or something, you could just ask the game system and they'll say like, oh well, so and so many players use this tool instead, or they use this item to get around to this thing. And you can purchase this item right now for so-and-so. And then like have a pop-up feature come up on the screen while you're playing the game to get you to monetize, like another way to
that doesn't
those sales.
That doesn't
No, it doesn't at all. Imagine a kid playing that game. Like, oh, yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll have 3 of them.
Yep. Yeah, right. Next thing you know, you get your credit card bill. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, that, again, they're like, yeah, really, that's amazing. That's awesome that Disney's doing that. That's brilliant.
I mean, Disney's out for
themselves.
Right now, they want to make money, and they've seen that Fallen Order has made money, so they want that to continue. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, but if it meant we got some good old-fashioned single-player games back, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm old enough and cynical enough now to believe there is no such thing as a heart when it comes to business. No one is out for the goodness of their heart. Everyone is out for the bottom line, the dollar, and all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they see that that's making more money, that's a good trend to follow.
Yeah. And
that should be a way that, it's a terrible expression because used so poorly in so many other ways, but it's that whole voting with your pocketbook kind of thing.
Yes.
Where, if EA has produced, 6 different Star Wars, games, and one of them is massively successful and the other 5 are kind of flops long term, then what's the difference,
Yeah.
So, hey, this is what's different. Let's keep doing that. Let's not do the thing we did in the other 5 games. It's like, that seems logical. And I'm sure there are probably other ways that Disney's going to try to plan to monetize that.
Well, it seems that their main business objective is just...
I can see them coming out with their own... Yeah, they can probably have their own game studio.
Yeah, well, that's it. They just seem...
With the amount of IP they have out there.
Yeah, they're going to buy everything.
Buy everything. They'll have their own Marvel series of games and Star Wars series of games and all these different things, and they're going to just own it all, and they'll just only produce themselves, and then next thing you know, they're going to have a streaming service only for their games. There's always a long-term financial plan, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's altruistic about any of that, but at the same time, it's like, that sounds much more attractive to me.
Yeah. You
one thing touched... Sorry?
Is that you touched on something I wanted to come back around to when you were talking about saying no to to downloading some of the games that your daughter wanted, even though she's going to put on the waterworks and plead with you and beg with you. And as a teacher and a parent, and especially a teacher who's advocated technology in the classroom, that's something I get asked a lot. Is, well, what can we say yes to and what can we say no to? And one of the things I'm often reminding parents is that they are the adult, and if they don't want something in their house, it's their right to say no. And it's amazing how a lot of parents don't want to feel like they're the bad guy. And so we'll say yes to something because of the old, but everyone is doing it, everyone is playing it, everyone has it. Whether it's gaming or fashion or anything, kids have been trying that on with their parents for centuries.
Hundreds and hundreds of years.
And so it's one thing I always want to remind parents is that you can say no. And the truth is not everyone is playing it or doing it or having it. There are some people who do. But I've been staggered by some of the parents who have let their kids play things like GTA 5 because they're under the impression that everyone's playing it. Yeah. 10-year-olds.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And
there'll be no running over of,
well, I mean, just a 10-year-old just simply doesn't have the context to deal with that sort of content.
No.
And it's always under the but all their friends are playing it, and it's like, well, no, they're not. One of their friends might be playing it, and just that, just because they have a laptop, just because they have an iPad, doesn't mean they can have free reign on it. You're the parent, you're in control, you're the person who gets to choose, and it's a lesson that kids need to learn early, that they can't just do whatever they want because they've got something, that there are rules.
And that goes back to more of that goes back to more of a general parenting dynamic, I feel, though.
And then sometimes
kids especially early on, kids thrive in structure.
Yes.
They want to have structure. They want to know where the boundaries are, so that they can then act as freely as they want to and develop their personalities and be whoever it is they're going to be. you know, but they have structure. They have walls around them that say, okay, you can go far, but not this far.
Yeah.
You can do that, but not that. You know, teaching them, you know, what is and what isn't acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that's just an extension of that in the sense of the boundaries element. And like, okay, it's okay to do this, but it's not okay to do that. That's a step too far.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the other day, like one of my boys, he's 3, but he was, you know, he made a giant mess, and Mom was helping him clean it up. And he's like, no, you're not going to sit there while Mom cleans that up. You're going to help her clean that up. Yeah. And he helped her for a few, you know, pieces, picked up the pieces, put them in the bucket. Then the last piece was there. I'm like, okay, last piece. It's right there by you. Just pick it up. Last piece. He takes it and throws it at Mom. I'm like, okay, no, time out. You know, you're going to go sit by yourself for a minute and think about why that was not an acceptable action. It's like, that's not okay. You know, it was in the direction of the bucket, but no, that was not helpful. That was not, like, come on. That's like, to me, like that argument, you know, if he's 10 and he's asking for, you know, some game that does this and that, and like, no, it's the same kind of idea. Like, yes, you can play games. Yes, you can do things, but not that game, not this thing, or not that thing. It's like having some realm of boundaries, and having boundaries are things that like when I was a kid, it pissed me off when my parents told me no.
Yeah.
And when they, you know, set curfews, and when they held me to those curfews, and when, like, and when I got older, I understood that they wouldn't have done that if they didn't give a shit.
Yeah, that's right.
French, but if they didn't care, there wouldn't be a boundary.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a curfew. And it's actually the fact that they care and they're invested in me being, you know, better and being or growing and becoming a good person. That's why there's that structure. That's why there are boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
They're there because they're trying to help you in the best way they know how. Do they always know the best way? No. Parents mess up all the time.
Yeah, and nothing's changed.
They're trying.
Just because we've got devices and gaming and whatever, nothing's changed. That's still the parents' responsibility to set those boundaries. And
exactly.
Yeah, sometimes I think technology gets a bad rap.
Setting the boundary for a kid, actually, in my mind, it's a sign of affection. It's a sign of saying, no, I love you too much to just give you free rein on this.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have enough information or experience built up in your little head to make the right choice all the time in regards to this issue. So I'm sorry, it's not going to be your choice to make. It's my choice to make, and not going to happen.
Yeah.
Why?
You can choose.
I love you.
You can choose.
No problem with that? Sorry.
You can choose which type of cookie you want after dinner, but you're not going to get to choose to play GTA 5. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Exactly.
So why don't we just play pretend? Why don't we just go out? Why don't we just act the night? And why couldn't I just talk to you? And why couldn't you just talk to me?
If there's something that, like, my daughter asked me about, or that she's really curious about checking out or trying, sometimes I'll download it myself and I'll check it out first.
Yes.
And then I'll be like, just so I have an informed reason as to why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest change that those of us who grew up with video games in their infancy need to understand is that, like, I want my son to play video games with me, and we play Minecraft together. He has a Nintendo Switch, and so we play the Mario type games together. And nice. His mum likes playing those sorts of games too. So like we have that sort of family time where we can do that. But you do need to do some research these days around the games that you're going to let them play, and it does take you time.
Well,
and if you don't have the time, then you can say no. Like you're allowed to say no. But I think that's the bit that's changed. That games are different, and those of us who grew up, plugging in the Sega Master System, and just about being able to put any cartridge in there, and that game's going to be fine. You just can't do that anymore. You do have to, either whether it's online research or, as you're saying, actually download it yourself and play it. We're obligated to do that now. Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, because I don't have an extensive memory of my childhood, but like I do remember one of the most frustrating reasons that a parent can possibly give for a negative answer to a request is because I said so. You know what I mean? You're being a dick and just exercising your power because you can? Yeah. Come on, why? Why is that not okay? Why is that not good? And I want to have, one of my own personal, like, as parents, again, like, I think we've talked about this before, as parents, we're always trying to correct the perceived mistakes that we thought our parents made.
Yeah.
At least correct ways in which our parents raised us and trying to raise our kids and with the lessons that we've learned. Yeah. And that was something for me that was always super frustrating. It was like the blanket, no. Like, and I'm going to say I'm going to lean towards no. And I even tell my kids this. I'm like, okay, well, let me check it out. I'll take a look at it. And if it's okay, then sure. But if not, but my kids have gotten really good at the maybe and taking the maybe as a, so
that's a yes,
Jim
but
Carrey
not just
and Dumb and Dumber. It's like, you're saying there's a chance. And they hold on to that little glimmer of hope. And they're like, oh, maybe. Oh, no, okay. Oh, let's find something else. Let's find something else to do. Luckily, that's a benefit of kids' attention spans, too, is that you can always try to distract them with something else shiny as well. So
yeah,
I don't have to deal with anything too long, and exhaustive in terms of emotionally, destroying them in any way just yet. But I'm sure that'll come. But yeah, like with GTA 5, I've played GTA before, so I have an idea of what that means. I haven't played GTA 5, but my first instinct is going to be a definite hard no.
Oh, yeah.
5-year-old comes up to me and asks to play it. I'm like,
oh, look, I told my sister, she's got a couple of teenage boys, and so this is going back quite a few years now, because GTA 5's, it must be 5 or 6 years old at least. And I played GTA 5.
I played GTA 3 and then GTA Vice City. Was that around the same time?
Yeah, I don't know. One was, and I loved the game.
I haven't played anything since then. Well, look, I love it. It was brilliant.
And GTA
super fun
5,
to play in your 20s.
Yeah, it might be the best video game I've ever played. Like, it was brilliant. A brilliant story, awesome game. It was fantastic. It's just not for kids. Like, it was in Australia, It was given an R rating, so it's 18 plus, and it was given that for a reason. Sometimes you just have to trust that the people who do the classification things have a reason for giving games or movies a classification, and it's not because they're prudes. It's because they're trying to give you some information about what's in it.
Yeah.
No, so I'm shaking my head sometimes when I hear, kids in my class and they're, some of the games that they're playing. Geez, do your parents know what's in? Yeah, but anyway,
it's like just recently, like. Okay, this is another example of microtransactions, I guess, in the sense that I don't know if it is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But so, like, I have a console, right? I have a PlayStation, and so in order to play anything online through PlayStation and PlayStation Network, you have to do that annual subscription, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm referring to?
Yep.
You pay like an annual fee, and then the nice thing is, as a bonus, every month, they'll allow you to download 2 older games for free.
Yeah.
To your library, and you can download them and play them if you want or not. But it's like you need to subscribe to their service kind of thing in order to play online games, multiplayer games through the PlayStation.
Yep.
Right. You know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. The one of the reasons I've played more Xbox than I've got both consoles, but most of my online gaming will be on Xbox because their online gaming is free.
It's free?
Well, no, I shouldn't say that. Some of the games that I've wanted to play online, I can play online for free. There's a gold subscription, which gives you pretty much the same thing as PlayStation, but the games I've wanted to play, I've been able to play online for free.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes, on PlayStation you have to do this. If you're going to play online at all or play multiplayer at all, you have to subscribe to the PlayStation Network or whatever it is, PlayStation Plus or whatever it is they call it. Everything's a plus nowadays. But the way they kind of try to mitigate any pain you might feel from paying that, and it's relatively nominal if memory serves. It's like $20 a year or something like that. I could be wrong on those numbers. Don't quote me. But the way they kind of try to mitigate that is by every month they will give you 2 games free to download. And so in the past I've downloaded like tons of games, from like random snowboarding games, which I have played with my kids and they think it's hilarious, to like just recently they had the entire the first 3 Nathan Drake Uncharted games.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Which I'd never played before, and it's like the Nathan Drake collection, the first 3 Uncharted games. And I've been playing through those, and again, just going back to that style of linear storytelling, adventure, straightforward. That's just like playing that game. So that's like, sorry, I'm getting off track. But going back to the purchases thing, it's like if you're going to do this, you have to pay, but we're going to try to at least give you something extra so that you don't feel like you're just paying for nothing.
Yeah.
Paying for the ability to play online, you're also going to get some benefits out of this, and so it gives you access to this library of other games that they constantly are just changing up, like, which is fun, and also kind of allows you to be exposed to games you might not necessarily have checked out otherwise.
Yeah.
And that is fun as well, but it's like. At least that's something for it's like a tit for tat kind of thing. It's something. It doesn't feel like it's just money lost, like it does sometimes with microtransactions.
Yeah.
I think that you'll pay for more crystals or for more of this or for a chance to open a box that then might have something that you actually want inside of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's like the gambling part of it. That's just super frustrating. But my point of that, though, is that it exposed, got me to get these Nathan Drake games, these first-person, narration, storyline-driven games, and it just made me realize how unfulfilling so many of the mobile games that I play are.
Yeah.
Like going back into experiencing like a straightforward, storyline-driven, great, game that I probably wouldn't have bought for myself, but because it's free right now, I downloaded it and checked it out, and I'm like 75% through the second game in the series so far, and I've played like maybe 10 hours in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right.
So it's not like not crazy hard. Doesn't require a ton of time. Not stupid amount of investment as far as any of that goes, and thoroughly enjoyable. Yeah. And again, ticks all those boxes of those things that like I remember loving about video games from growing up with them.
Yeah.
That sense of accomplishment, the sense of like, oh hey, yeah, this is a story. It's progressing. I'm you learning more skills as you're going through the game. You're learning how to do this better and that better, and refining and improving and all of that.
Puzzle,
and
feeling for a
you're hearing this fun story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're having a fun story. You're like living, an adventure, through this avatar, and it's all of the things that mobile games do not offer.
Yes.
To the point where, like, now on mobile games, I've basically gone back to like Sudoku and Solitaire for the most part, because I'm just so frustrated by all the other, the BS. It's like, I want to have something to do. I want to challenge my brain. I want to, do teasers and do stuff and figure things out. But like,
if you want to go to the casino, that's a different trip. Yeah.
If you go to a casino, every now and again you'll pull that arm and you'll win $20.
Yeah.
You'll actually get something out of it. This isn't even a casino. This is just, you're, if anything, you put money in the hopes that you might actually enjoy yourself.
Actually, I think casino games
That's what I mean by like the games are just fun enough.
Yeah. Casino games are the ones I don't get the most, because for me, going to the casino is more about the venue and the event of going there. Playing a slot machine on my phone that just doesn't make sense to me at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
That's just doesn't get
Never understood that. Yeah.
No.
Well,
hey,
like, what do you do if you get jackpot on your phone?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Who's there to witness that? Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I got a pat on my back. Where do I cash out my chips?
Hey, as you know, we normally wrap up the Dad Regime podcast with a "What's on your playlist." We've been going for just about an hour.
Yeah.
I wondered whether you wanted to have a chat
That's been an hour.
about. If we've been going for an hour, yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to have a quick 5-minute chat
God.
about the Mandalorian?
Oh, dude, I could talk for much more than 5 minutes about Mandalorian.
How good was the Mandalorian?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's been fascinating because I've been I've been a Star Wars fan for as long as I can remember. I think I was like 4 or 5 when like we were living. My dad was military, so we were living in the UK at the time, and I remember getting mailed VHSs that somebody had like recorded off the TV or something, and like that was how I got introduced to Star Wars.
Yeah.
We had VHSs that we literally wore out of New Hope, Empire, Return of the Jedi, both Ewok movies. Like, yeah, like I just couldn't get enough, and it was like super sad forever when there was nothing more coming out forever and ever, to the point where I was one of those people who like dressed up fully for the re-releases in the late 90s. I went in full Jedi costume with lightsaber and everything. And then, so yeah, when seeing, but the reason I said this is that, so I've just been eating up as much Star Wars entertainment stuff for years as I could. I was a fan of Clone Wars. Through that, became a big fan of Filoni and the creator of Mandalorian, all that. John Favreau worked on Clone Wars as well. And just like the fact that they seem to have like, it seems like it's something that's made by people who are fans of the original.
Yeah.
Well, in that thematically, like the things that George Lucas is famous for saying that he was inspired by like Akira Kurosawa and what's his name? Not Boss. My kids too much. I was about to say Buzz Lightyear. What am I saying? Buck Rogers.
Buck Rogers, yeah.
Cereals, right? Not Buzz Lightyear, Buck Rogers. Those like space cereals of like man at a time, pulled away and thrust on this adventure and taken off into space, and that was like his like motivation behind how he was trying to set the atmosphere of all these the first trilogy, essentially, and like basically the first movie, totally. Like the tone that he was setting, how everything was dirty, that had never been seen before in a sci-fi. The fact that it felt lived in, it felt real. And that seemed like that tone and that feeling is what I got from The Mandalorian the first time, in a way that I hadn't gotten in any live-action Star Wars that I've seen, really, since the original trilogy.
No, all the movies have become something new. That
they've become these event pieces. These they've become mythological even before they're ever seen released.
Yeah,
like they've become these huge ideas of continuing this epic story. Blah. It's like, no, just tell a tale in this world that feels real.
Given the time frame of 40 years. I don't know that the movies, I've loved all the movies, some more than others, as we've talked about before, but
yes, yeah,
they have just gotten to that point where they're so big because it's 9 movies over 40 years that they can't do what that original one did. They've just become something else. But you're right, The Mandalorian just captured that feel.
They stopped trying, though.
I think so, but I think they almost, I don't say they had to, but like they were never going to please.
Like they got
they were never going to please
the epic
everybody.
nature of it.
Yeah.
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 Well, they got pulled into at least this is my interpretation of how, because I'm sure there's lots of fans that everybody interprets all this stuff differently, but it felt like it became more about the event of the movie coming out.
Yeah.
Than it was really about what was going on in the movie and the story and the characters and the depth and the realness of it. The thing that I fell in love with initially was that realness, the environment of it. The fact that it feels like a place.
Yeah.
It feels like you could have gone to Tatooine when you were, a kid.
Yeah.
That felt like, it felt like a real thing. Like, how is that any different from, Casablanca when you're 5 and living in, some small town in the middle of nowhere? It's a name that you've heard of. It doesn't make it any less real. You've seen them both in pictures, and it's like, that's the thing I loved about The Mandalorian is that it really takes you back to that not, I hate this word, but I think grittiness, the realness of it feels lived in. It feels like it's a world. That's something that it really felt like they put in the effort to really make it feel that way.
Yeah.
To make it feel like this is a place. These are people. Every single person on that screen who you're passing by, they have a life, they have a motivation, they have a place that they're heading to.
Yeah.
They're not just walking by the camera because, that's their cue. Walk. They all have, everything has a purpose and an intent behind it.
A simplicity.
There's nothing that's superfluous.
A simple story.
Yeah.
Very few characters that we need to know about, and yet an ensemble that supports it all. And I just loved it. And
you go back to New Hope. New Hope is one of the most simple stories ever.
Yeah. Rescue the princess.
Plot wise. Yeah. Rescue the princess, beat the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's it. There's no twists. There's no turns. It's a very straightforward storyline.
Yeah. And
there are sacrifices that are made. There are losses. There are things adventures and things you learn along the way. Like everybody, you find out more about everybody, but they all push themselves and find, it's about the people in the story. That's what makes it interesting. It allows you, if you keep the story simple, it allows the audience to really invest in the characters.
Yeah.
And especially when they build the characters and really develop them and make that, build that world out, it makes it really interesting.
Yeah.
And it makes you care. And the more that you care as an audience member about the people that you're seeing in the story on the screen, the more you're going to be dedicated to it, the more you're going to want to wait rabidly for the next episode. And more enjoy the adventure overall as it goes along. It's one of the best things I've seen. One of the best shows that I've seen, honestly, in recent memory.
Yeah.
And honestly, probably the best Star Wars property that I've seen. Definitely the best live action Star Wars property that I've seen.
For a long time.
Years.
And loved that we could watch it. We could watch it as a family. There's some pretty cool sci-fi shows out there, but they're just too highbrow. They're too complex for my son who's 7, nearly 8. And then we could watch it as a family, and he could get everything that was happening. It was just loved it. It ticked every box that I could possibly want in a Star Wars live action show.
It was so good.
Yeah,
and it's like honestly, it carried on a lot of stuff that a lot of those same themes I really loved about Clone Wars and about Rebels.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting much of Clone Wars because it comes out after the prequels came out, so I was a little burnt on the prequels, as I think many people were. And so when the Clone Wars came out, it took me a while to actually start picking up, start watching it, and when I did, I kicked myself for not checking it out earlier.
Yeah.
And it does the same kind of thing where it makes the characters feel real. They do a really good job of trying to get the audience engaged and actually make it feel like it's a real place. Even though Clone Wars and Rebels has a little higher bar for that just because it's animated, it doesn't. There's already that separation of reality or what have you.
Yeah.
But the Mandalorian is, I think, brilliant. I think it makes me wonder why something couldn't have been done of similar quality Sooner?
Yeah, well, it makes me confident, though, that the next generation of Star Wars content, now that the Skywalker saga has wrapped up, makes me confident that
Yes. It's got a good place to go to.
something cool is going to come from it. Yeah. But mate, we better wrap up. We're over an hour. This has been awesome.
Fair.
Thanks for joining me again, pal.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. And we'll
of course, always a pleasure.
We'll be in touch.
I can't wait.
So why don't we just play pretend?
Hey, before Pretty Jesus takes over and closes the show with their new track, Be My Valentine, if you've made it this far, then you are one of the people who we're doing this for. And if you like what we're doing, then perhaps you know one other person who might also enjoy the Dad Regime podcast. And if you know that one other person, perhaps you could share this. Perhaps you could send it to them. Perhaps a suggestion, a recommendation. We would love it. Word of mouth is by far the best way to support us. We really appreciate that you're listening. We'll see you next time.